Hi, welcome to Soul Conversations. I'm life coach and author Melissa Maxx. This is a platform where we have conversations about life and happiness, health, personal development, spirituality, with the top thought leaders and authors on the subjects. And today I couldn't be happier about talking to Dr. Gladys McGarey. She is the author of this book, The Well-Lived Life, a 102-year-old doctor's 6 secrets to health and happiness at every age. Just a little about Gladys. She's recognized as a pioneer of the allopathic and holistic medical movements. She's also founding diplomat of the American Board of Holistic Medicine. She's the co-founder and past president of the American Holistic Medical Association, as well as the co-founder of the Academy of Parapsychology and Medicine and the founder of the International Academy of Clinical Hypnosis. So let's jump in. Today I'm with Dr. Gladys McGarey, the author of The Well-Lived Life, a 102-year-old doctor's 6 secrets to health and happiness at every age. So yeah, I'm so thrilled to be with you. I'm a big reader, and I read everything from books on spirituality to health and wellness, to self-esteem and mindfulness. And this book literally touched on everything I'm interested in and more, and tied it together so nicely that I got the goosebumps when I was reading it. So I'm very excited to talk to you.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
In your book, you talked about the fact that there isn't just one component to health and happiness. Can you talk about what you mean when you talk about holistic health? Because I think there are a lot of misconceptions and misperceptions of what holistic health is.
Well, absolutely. I mean, but I will talk about it in a quick story. Okay. My oldest son is a retired orthopedic surgeon, and when he came through Phoenix to go down to Del Rio, Texas, where he's going to start his practice, he said to me, "Mom, I'm real scared." He said, "I'm going into the world. I'm going to have people's lives in my hand. I don't know if I can handle that." And I said to him, "Well, Carl, if you think you're the one who does the healing, you have a right to be scared. If you can do this job, which is an awesome job, orthopedic surgery, that you have learned and what you know how to do so well, if you can do that to the best of your ability, and then let the physician within the patient do the job of healing as you support that patient to do that healing, then you won't have anything to be afraid of because you've got a colleague." And to me, that's the essence of the message of holistic health. But basically, the fact that it isn't one modality or the other that's right or wrong or whatever. It's the how that patient can take what you have to offer them and use it to their own healing, because we don't do that healing. We offer it to them and they then work with it.
You know, there's a lot of talk about the mind-body connection, but I think that's just 2 components of it. As you spoke about in the book, everything is an ecosystem. So our body is an ecosystem. The planet is an ecosystem. Even human consciousness is an ecosystem. So talk about that doctor that we all, or the inner knowing or the higher self that we all have within us, but I think we're not even aware that we do.
A lot of it is because the whole medical world has not accepted that. I mean, we have told patients to do what we tell them to do. And sometimes that doesn't work because the patient either isn't ready to do it or it just is not right for that patient. So in our ability as physicians not to recognize where the true healing actually lies is a mistake. And when we started the American Holistic Medical Association, it was that very reason, because we understood that the medical world knew about the body and the mind. Somewhat was just getting to know about the mind when we started, but that they had completely not overlooked it, but just dismissed it, the whole spiritual aspect of it.
Two things. People call this sort of like new age medicine or alternative medicine, but when you think about it, it's really very ancient wisdom and ancient knowledge that, it's actually the original healing and the original knowledge. I think a lot of Western doctors, although they are starting to open up, are reticent to accept it or even acknowledge it. Why do you think that is?
Because they're not taught it. We're not taught it in medical school. In fact, when we started talking about this way, we were so, I was a witch doctor and all kinds of other things. I won't mention it.
Sure.
But the idea was that was so woo-woo that it was just completely dismissed. And it is now beginning to, well, not just beginning, it is coming back into reality as individual people are recognizing and re-accepting the fact that they really are the ones who do the healing. And as each person accepts that, that's when it begins to come back in.
I think it's so empowering. And I think, to get into a bigger picture thing, I think, if you're a government person, it's easier not to have the people of a community be empowered sometimes because there's not a lot of money in people being self-empowered. But I think you're right. It is, the more people step into this and realize it, I do think it's coming back, and I think it's gaining more and more momentum. And you must be so thrilled to see all of your life work coming into fruition and widely accepted.
And one area in which I really am passionate is in that process of birthing. We have so taken away women's power to believe that they are the people that birth the babies. I mean, even as we talk about it, we talk about, I'm helping, to birth your baby, but I'm calling it, I'm doing the whole process.
Right. You're delivering the baby when it's actually
delivering the baby. We deliver speeches, we deliver pizza. We don't deliver babies. Women birth babies. And it's taking me time to really take that word out and put birth back into the hands of the mother who's birthing the baby.
You talk about, and I don't have children myself, so I hadn't even heard of this concept, but you talked about gentle birthing. And you also there's so much that you talk about. I wish I could talk to you for 102 more years, but you talk about one, and we'll get into your 6 secrets to health and happiness, but one subset you're talking about was sort of self-esteem and how trauma early on in life can affect how, if you love yourself or not. I always thought about that, as child development, but there's in utero stuff that happens that can form things and does, and the whole birthing process. So that's fascinating to think about as well.
Yeah, it's a team of work. The mother and the baby work together on this. Hopefully the family is part of it too, but the actual work that is done is the mother and the baby. And it's an amazing thing when you really begin to work with that and understand it.
And then you can sort of extrapolate it, because that is happening everywhere. We see everyone is so disconnected, but that's happening everywhere, all over the planet. I'm getting goosebumps as I'm saying this. We're living in a time where we're so disconnected from each other and from the planet and from our bodies and from ourselves. And you say something that I loved so much. You say in the book, health and happiness is about being so connected to our own life that we then fit into the world around us. And I think we don't get that. I think we're taught to be such individuals that we've lost this sense of community and connection. And I think that's why we're getting physically and mentally ill. Can you expand on that a little bit?
Well, absolutely, because until we actually understand the fact that we're in charge of what we're doing. I mean, we were given free will when we were created. And my thought about this is I have no stuff behind me that says this, but when God said he created the human and he gave us dominion over the earth, we took that to mean dominance. We should not dominate. We should take dominion, and that means taking care of, because we are the beings who have this amazing gift of choice and self-will. And our will is what connects us with the whole universal process that's going on.
Well, I think we, especially today and especially in the West, we take dominance as being strong because we think it's about force. And the fact of the matter is this dominance runs over everything else. It destroys the planet, it destroys other people,
Absolutely.
and we're destroying ourselves in the process of that. So
Absolutely.
you have 6 secrets that you talk about in the book that will give you happiness and health or contribute to it at any age. I want people to get the book so they can really delve deep, but number 1 is you're here for a reason. What do you mean when you say that?
We all know in our hearts that we have a purpose here. You know, I knew when I was 2 that I was going to be a doctor. My grandchild, she's 6, and she has asked her grandmother if she would apply as an intern in her hospital.
Oh.
I mean,
we should all be that lucky. Wow.
So, but it's that kind of an awareness. If as parents, we recognize what children say, really work on that. It's like my son I couldn't begin to do this technology without him. He's a retired Presbyterian minister. But when he was 7 years old, he came in and he says to me, "I wish Jesus was here." And I said, "Well, I do too, but why are you asking?" And he says, "Well, I've got questions." And I says, "Oh, well, try me." He says, "But you don't have the answers." And I says, "Yeah, but try them. Let me try." So he says, "Okay, how can God be if he never got started?"
Whoa.
And I said, "Oh."
I think we'd have to beep out what you said.
Well, maybe it's like a circle. It doesn't have a beginning or an end.
Ooh.
And he says, "I know you didn't have the answers." But so of course he became a minister. He had this question in his soul way back then, and he had to go into the whole process of the ministry.
That's really interesting because I was thinking, wow, so many of us don't really know what our purpose is. But I think if I'm hearing you correctly, you're saying we actually do when we're very, very young, but it either gets programmed out of us or conditioned out of us or shamed out of us. But if we really maybe get back there, we can figure out.
That's right. If we as parents begin to listen to what the children are saying, because a lot of times it's, "Oh, well, that was just a dream," or you just don't even pay attention. My other son, he came in, he was 4, and he says, "Mama, I know something." And I says, "Well, good, Bobby, what is it?" He says, "If I make a friend and he makes a friend and he makes a friend, it's going to go all around the world and come back to me." Of course, he's a psychologist. So he has the humanistic psychology. So these are things that we've kind of forgotten.
I just want to remind people your book is called The Well-Lived Life. Dr. Gladys, there seems to be we're talking about children. There seems to be so much violence in schools. I was wondering if you had any thoughts about that.
I had a friend who said to me one day, we were talking about this, why would we want to put guns in the teachers' hands? I mean, that's a ridiculous thing to me. She said when she was teaching school, one year she had a dog in that classroom, and that was the best year she ever had. That dog knew if the child was grieving. That child knew if it was afraid of the dog, it would never go near the child until the child reached out to him. I think if we had guardian dogs, right, I think it would take care of the problem, because then if you did have a child that doesn't know about love, and there was a dog in the classroom, and they got to love that dog, and the dog loved them, they would begin to experience love. And there are a lot of children who don't know what love is, that are so traumatized. But we've taken the arts out of the classroom and all kinds of things out of the classroom that was trying to teach this. But now, if we could somehow get somebody, I've been talking about this for a long time, but I think somebody could really start, because it would start a whole new profession. You'd have to have dogs that are hypoallergenic. You'd have to have dogs trained to do this. You'd have to have the trainers trained. You'd have to see teachers trained. The parents would have to be trained.
You know, we in America tend to only do things if there's a financial payoff, unfortunately, but you're right. That's the socio part of the problem, and the economic that could be solved. I love this idea. You know, they bring dogs into prisons. Why don't we start before it gets to that point? It's true. Wow, I love that. Can you talk more about the process? You call it turning towards life. You talk about there's a juice in all of us, and again, everything we've been talking about are all facets of us as a whole. You talk about there's a life force in us. You say we must find the life force within us and direct our energy towards it in order to be well and healthy and happy. So so many of us, as we were saying, are so disconnected and unhappy and mentally and physically unwell. How do we find the life force within us?
You'll never find it if you're not looking for it. We have to start looking for it. But the world has never told us that's where we look, you know. But when we start looking for it, it may just be a glimmer. It may just be a song. It may be a painting. It may be something somebody said, and we say, oh, I get that. I get that. And when you have that kind of a understanding and you take it in, then you begin to look for it and it shows up. Also, I think that I kind of envision walking down a path with a flashlight in my hand, and I can't see any farther than where that flashlight ends, where the light of the flashlight ends. So I have to take one step at a time and stuff. But quite frequently, you might see somebody walking along a path and their flashlight is dim and they just don't quite know what it's doing. If you add your light to that light, it improves the light. I hope this book is doing that. It's bringing the light into the dark areas.
I think it is so amazing. You know, the Wizard of Oz, Dorothy learns that you've always had the power, my dear. You just had to recognize it for yourself.
Yeah, and E.T. always is going home.
Right, another perfect. And I think this book has so much important information, but it's written in a loving way, I think. Also very easy to understand. I think, you know, as I said, I read a lot of heavy books. I think anyone can pick this up and really start to understand things in a new way. The exercises are wonderful. They don't take a lot of time, but they're really powerful. So I think, yeah, I think this is sort of a culmination of all of your work and all of your knowledge and all of your other books, kind of in a user's manual for people, like it's their own personal user's manual. If it makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I pray that it can continue to do that, because it seems like it's really picking up. It's taken a life of its own, this book has, for me.
The timing is, it is so needed. And when I tell you the goosebumps and brought to tears, and my highlighters were running out and I was taking notes. And I was lucky enough to get an advance copy. It's out now. So I know other people are just going to fall in love with it. and fall in love with you just as I feel like I know you. I feel like you're my grandma.
Uh,
So I am so thankful for the book. We're running out of time, so I have one last question for you. You have seen so much change in the world in your 102 years, the environment, as we spoke about, technology,
2 world wars.
I mean, technology, politics, so much. I can't even. I'm 50 years old. I think that, wow, I've seen so much since the 1970s. I can't even. I can't even begin to imagine. So, it does seem to me that we may be getting off path, though. We are sort of veering in the wrong direction in a lot of ways. Again, that's why we're saying this book is so needed right now. What do you say about where we're headed? Do you think we can correct the course we're on? And how do you stay positive? And I realize that's 3 questions, but
Yeah, you have to keep moving to keep the juice going. So that's one thing. But I'm calling it a jubilee year. Biblically, I don't understand that biblical way it's laid out, but there comes a time when a year is the jubilee year, and it's a year to reclaim what was given away, or taken away. So it's bringing back into our awareness the things that we have bypassed or just done away with. It's saying, no, this is a jubilee year. Reclaim it, bring it back into yourself, and realize what amazing, joyous human aspects are in this world for you to share with, just like you're able to do. And with the technology now, that's never been possible. How in the world could I ever have managed this?
Right. The things we think are divisive are only divisive if we use them that way. Yes. I think you're right. This jubilee, it's a great way to look at it. This taking back. I think the thing we're stepping back into, if we're willing to do it, is our power. And when we find our own power personally and compassion for ourselves, then it just expands to the whole.
Once we get to love ourselves, we can love other people.
Okay, so it's one more thing. I said that was the last question, but I'm a life coach, and I work with a lot of people who have low self-esteem, stemming from their childhood, and they can't get past that. That affects every area of their life.
Absolutely, I know about that.
And I do as well personally. That's why I got into this line of work. But you had a quote. Oh, you said something to the effect of, when you realize you are lovable, you become love-able. And I think if you expand on that a little bit, that would be a great way to finish this out. Once you realize you are lovable, you become love-able.
Yes, because until you do, you aren't able to access that at its completeness. You can access aspects of it all the time, but actually getting hold of that ability to be able to love yourself, and then you can love other people. It's that sort of like you breathe in, then you can breathe out. But if you can't breathe in, you can't take the love in. It's all around you. But when you do breathe it in, and you really get the feeling of that, taking that deep breath that gets all the way down, and then you can breathe out, you're able to do it.
Oh, I love that. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much. So the book is out now. It's called The Well-Lived Life, a 102-year-old doctor's 6 secrets to health, happiness at every age. I look forward to 6 more at your 112th birthday, maybe. Dr. Gladys McGarey, thank you so much. As I said, the book was a pleasure, and I feel just so fortunate that I got to speak to you. So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. And I want to think more about the dogs in school thing, because I think you're onto something there. It could
Please
be,
do.
I think it could be amazing, and we could help animals, and it could be just so good. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
The book, Mindfulness for People Who Suck at Being Mindful, is available on Amazon. Subscribe to the blog, maximizedlife.com. On Instagram, a.maximize.life. On Twitter, at DJ Melissa Max. On YouTube, A Maximized Life. On TikTok, A Maximized Life. And on Facebook, at Mindfulness Coach Melissa Max, all with 2 X's.